What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the All-In Podcast, a podcast for casual leaguers. I am the League Dad, and today I am joined by Nighthawk, co-host. He's a regular. You guys know him, and today we are coming at you with a locked-in segment. I am excited to do this. The last one we did was on Eve with Kevin, and it was such a great time. In fact, it was so fun that I actually picked up Eve and am good enough to play her in rank now. She's actually been helping me climb, not to mention the fact that she's pretty OP at the moment as well, but it really paid off for me. I hope it's paid off for you. At least open your minds a little bit to different champion pools, going in depth like that. And so today we're going to do another locked in segment, and this time we're going to be talking about Jax. And I am excited to do this, one, because Jax is a champion that I've always liked. Let me rephrase that. When he's not on my team and he's fed, I don't like that champion. But when he is on my team and there's a good Jax, you never can count yourself out, right? Like, I feel like whenever I have a Jax on my team, even if he like feeds super hard or whatever, I feel like there's always a chance. And so that's why I like Jax a lot on my team. And usually, if they're not totally terrible, then they can come back and carry the game. So that's hopefully what Nighthawk's going to help us do here. He's going to give us some info on Jax. Before we get in, though, why Jax, man? And I know we talked a little bit early, like, pick a champ that you want to talk about, and you definitely wanted to do Jax. Talk about your history with Jax, why you like this champion, and why you think it's a good champ for our listeners to possibly try and climb with.
Well, Jax has been a champion that I've pretty much been playing constantly ever since season 1. There was a meta a long time ago revolving around a series of items called Fair Flare, Devourer, and Midget's Blood Razor. That sort of item. It basically just revolves around doing a lot of damage on hit and farming of the jungle. There was a few champions that did really well with it: Udyr, Shyvana, and then Jax. And Jax was always a champion that I found really fun, because he beat Udyr and Shyvana because he has E. His E, for those who don't know, is Counter-Strike, which is, it dodges auto attacks.
Yeah.
So if you're playing Jax and they're playing Udyr, all of a sudden there's basically no chance for them to ever 1v1 you. Yes. At least back in the day.
Yep.
So that's the reason that I first started playing this champion, and I'll be honest, he's not the hardest champion to play. And he definitely isn't the highest skill cap champion out there. You're not going to be pulling off Riven combos or anything like that.
Right.
But he does have some nuance to his kit. Like, there's a little bit there that you can play around with. There's definitely some skill gap between people who just started playing Jax and people who have been playing him a long time. So.
Well, I mean, not all champions need to be hard, right? Not all champions need to be. But there is a reason why people like TF Blade have used Jax and have climbed, to the upper ranks of, different servers. I mean, there's a reason he's so strong. What else? Do you got anything else with Jax as far as why you love this champ so much?
He has the potential to really go all in. Yes. If I can borrow the name of the podcast.
Hey,
1v5. Like, he's a fantastic champion to carry with, if you can get ahead.
Definitely.
So, just a fun champion to play, easy to pick up, easy to start playing, and very fun, very rewarding. Okay,
so let's start with this then. Where do you primarily play Jax, top or jungle? Because I've seen him pretty regularly in both. Not as often, I see, but sometimes in the mid lane. But where do you recommend, and where do you usually play Jax?
So Jax is one of the few champions in the game who actually can play both of those roles fairly equally. I recommend Jax in the jungle right now, especially in the lower elos. Jax jungle has fantastic clear. His dueling capabilities are off the charts. He can outduel almost any other jungler. And you'll always be farmed enough just because of jungle camps that you shouldn't be too far behind, even if you aren't having the greatest game. That being said, his top lane, it's not in the best spot as it was right now. He did get nerfed probably about 6 months ago now. So he's not like amazing in the top lane, but he's still really good. But I would recommend playing him in the jungle. He's fantastic in the jungle. One of my favorite junglers to play.
Okay, cool. And where would you say his biggest spike is? I mean, we all know, I think if you played League for a little bit, you know that Jax is definitely a late game monster, but is he pretty strong as far as like early dueling? Like, is he a good level 3 jungler? I've been playing a lot of jungle, so I'm curious myself. How would you rate him, I guess, among some of the other strong early game junglers?
As with most auto attack reliant junglers, you're biggest power spike in the early game is going to be red buff. It just gives you a ton of on-hit damage and a ton of dueling capabilities, and also helps you stay healed up so you're full health when you do go into those duels. So if you have a red buff, don't be afraid to duel somebody, even if they have a red buff too. If you don't have a red buff, be very careful, because Jax doesn't have a ton of damage and he doesn't have a ton of survivability early game. In terms of spikes, he has some of the hardest power spikes in the game. One of them is that when he hits level 6, of course, when he gets his third on-hit passive, which is wonk, wonk, whack. I'm sure you're familiar
I
with
love that. Sound effects. Perfect. Yes. Okay. That really helped the visualization for our people on audio. The wonk, wonk, whack. You know, they get it. They understand. I like that. Thank you.
And if you're playing SKT Jax, it's bank, bank, bonk.
There it is. There it is.
But another really powerful power spike on him is picking up Triforce. It's been a mainstay on the champion for as long as I can remember. Really good item. Sheen and Phage are just fantastic, and then you can't go wrong with attack speed. So something that gives all three. I mean, why not? Relatively new to his build, and I've seen a lot of people picking this up in both top and jungle. Spear of Sojin. It's a newer item. It was old Essence Reaver. We see this a lot. It's exceptionally strong on Jax in the right team comps, because it basically allows you to have your E up almost permanently. And having your E up on Jax is such a powerful state that keeping it up permanently is just very insanely strong. It allows you to block all auto attacks, and something that not a lot of people who realize if they don't play Jax, it actually has a passive that blocks 25% damage from AoE abilities. Oh, nice. So if you're getting maged down by like a Lux or something, you can actually block some of her damage from her ult by pressing E. So
well, let's do this since I know we're going to be referencing a lot of the skills anyways as we talk about this. So let's go through the skills, you know, for those who are brand new to Jax. And, you know, what I did with Kevin, which was really awesome, is, you know, people might have an idea of what some of these skills do just by playing against Jax or whatever, but they might not know some of the intricacies within the skill, like some of the stuff you just mentioned with the E. And we'll revisit that, because I think it is helpful, because when you're playing against Jax or as Jax, you'll know some of these finer details. So let's go ahead and start with the passive, Relentless Assault. Can you explain that for me? And is there anything besides what the text says that our listeners should know about the passive?
It's a pretty basic passive. What it does is every auto attack you do, you get slightly more attack speed, and it stacks on top of each other for 8 times. So after 8 auto attacks, you'll have, I believe, it scales up, but you'll have a substantial amount of bonus attack speed. It makes him a great duelist. It's one of the reasons why his clear is decent. And it actually gives him a little bit of outplay potential. Not really outplay potential, but when you're attacking a tower and somebody comes to stop you, you'll have your passive stacked up fully. So you have a lot more damage than they might be expecting because of it.
Yep. Okay, cool. And let's go to Q, Leap Strike. So this is the one that you see when Jax is jumping at you. This is the one. So I'll just read it real quick from the wiki. Jax dashes to target unit or ward, useful for escapes. If his target is an enemy, he deals physical damage to them. So tell us about Q.
A pretty basic gap closer. You'll find this on most champions. The ward hopping is really what sets it apart from most other gap closers. It really allows him to navigate out of sticky situations. If your invade goes wrong, or you find yourself on the wrong side of Baron Pit and you really need to get in there, hop a ward over the wall, and there you go. Another thing to note about Leaf Strike is that it starts off on a pretty long cooldown, 10 seconds, but late game, once you reach 20 to 40% CDR, depending what your build, it's somewhere around 3 to 4 seconds cooldown, which is insanely low on a gap closer. You'll be hopping around from target to target.
That's one of the frustrating things when if you ever try to chase down a Jax and that guy's just jumping all over the place. That's why. So let's go to Empower, the W. So Jax's next basic attack or Leap Strike within 10 seconds deals bonus magic damage. If Empower is used on a basic attack, it will have 50 bonus damage. Empower resets Jax's auto attack. Yeah. Oh, say that. Oh, his range. Yes. Sorry. It will have 50 bonus range. Correct. Okay. And it is an auto attack reset. Correct. Okay.
Jax's W is the bread and butter of his kit. If you got the year in review last year and you played a little bit of Jax, it gives you an amount of times that you pressed each skill button on that champion. I believe my W was pressed about 5 to 10 times more than any other skill on the champion. So
wow. Okay.
You're going to be pressing this a lot. It's an auto attack reset, so it's very powerful in duels because you'll be autoing and then Wing instantly, which gives you 2 autos just like that. Very powerful. Mm-hmm. It does a lot of damage. It's basically an extra Sheen proc on top of that. And not a lot of people use it this way, but you can empower your Q. So if you're chasing somebody and they will die to a WQ combo, just remember to do that because it's a little bit weird. Not many other champions have that kind of thing in their kit, so it's always a little wonky to remember that it does affect your Q.
Okay, sweet. All right, and then E is if you guys noticed the little thing when he swings it around and is dodging stuff, it's counter strike. So when it's active, Jax enters in evasion, a defensive stance for up to 2 seconds, causing all basic attacks against him to miss. Jax also takes 25% reduced damage from all area of effect abilities. After 1 second, Jax can reactivate to end it immediately. At the end of the duration, Jax stuns all nearby enemies for 1 second and deals physical damage to them, increased by 20% for each attack dodged, up to 100% increase. All right, explain this. I think some of us have had the unfortunate circumstance of getting hit by this. Explain the Counter-Strike move.
So Counter-Strike is one of the main reasons why he is a fairly good jungler. It makes it so that you can clear all of the AoE camps like raptors and golems and wolves a lot safer than you would otherwise. Dodging all attacks, so basically any auto attack that you can think of, even empowered auto attacks like Twisted Fate's W card to stun, stuff like that you can dodge. Yeah. I know there's a few weird interactions where he can't dodge an auto attack, but it's very fringe. Don't worry too much about that. Okay. Another thing to note is that every auto attack you do dodge, your E will do more damage once the stun actually goes off. So if you can get into an early trade top lane or in the jungle and you dodge a lot of camp autos or creep autos, those will count to do more damage on your counter strike. So it will do double the damage, which can catch a lot of people off guard. Another thing to note, it's pretty basic, but you can reactivate this early, and you will want to do that. A lot of times you'll see people E and then leap strike to somebody and reactivate the E immediately to get that stun. That's fairly basic, and you'll want to be doing that when you're ganking because Jax doesn't have a ton of CC in his kit, so getting that stun set up is pretty much what you do as a ganker, and then try to kill them on top of that.
Okay, cool. Then finally, his ultimate Grandmaster's Might. Jax deals, so this is the passive part of it. Passively, Jax deals bonus magic damage on every third basic attack within 2.5 seconds of each other. The active is that Jax gains bonus armor, bonus magic resistance for 8 seconds. So explain his ultimate here.
So another reason why Jax is such a great duelist is because of this passive on his ultimate here. So many champions with 3-hit passives are great duelists. You see Vayne, you'll see Diana, you'll see Jax. Having that bonus damage on every third auto is great for clearing camps. It's great for dueling. You'll be winning almost every 1v1 because you'll be doing a ton more damage with it. But a lot of people discount the active ability. It's on a very short cooldown. I believe it's 80 seconds or something similar to that. And it makes you a lot more tanky than people realize. It gives you armor and MR flat, and then it also gives you bonus armor MR based on how much AD and AP you have.
Oh, cool.
There's not a lot of builds that utilize AP right now for Jax. Gunblade is kind of falling out of favor on him. Same with Rageblade. So you'll mostly just be getting more armor, but it still is a very powerful turret diving tool, and you'll want to activate this pretty much in every 1v1 that you are a little worried that you might lose.
Okay.
Pretty much, nice. It's a low cooldown. Just press it.
Just press it. Yeah, it's like Ash Arrow sometimes. I'm like, just use it, man. Like it's fine.
Just use it.
Exactly. Or same with the Lux ult. I'm like, come on, just use that sucker. Okay, very good. So before we get into runes and builds and all that stuff, let's talk briefly about some of the not matchups, but I want to say what kind of comps are, Jack's good picks into? Like, I know for me, I've been playing a lot more dynamically. Like if I have a last pick or something like that as a jungler, I'll kind of look at what they're picking. What is Jack's good into, or is he pretty good overall into anything? Or is there some comps where you should be like, okay, as much as I want to play Jax, maybe not this game. So give us your thoughts on kind of like matchups or compositions when Jax is good to pick into or not so good to pick into.
Jax has a very similar play style to champions like Master Yi or even Kha'Zix. He's very scared of CC. Heavy CC comps will shut down Jax almost consistently because his all-ins are very telegraphed. There's really not a lot of maneuverability in his kit besides his Q, and if you use your Q to engage, you're stuck where you are. So be wary of champions like Sejuani, Taric, any sort of Braum, Thresh especially. Thresh is a nightmare for a good Thresh is a nightmare for a Jax. Very, very heavy CC comps. If you see those and your last pick, maybe don't pick Jax, or maybe just be aware that you probably won't be able to carry as hard as you would have in another situation. Okay. A situation where it's great to pick Jax, and you'll probably see this a lot in the solo queue, especially in low elo, is into low CC teams.
Yes.
Teams where a lot of the damage is based all around auto attacks. So something like an Udyr jungle, a Kog'Maw, or Varus bot lane, some sort of auto attack based top lane, like an Aatrox. Aatrox isn't only auto attack based, but he's fairly good into him. So if you see a team comp where you're like, hey, most of this team's damage is going to be dodgeable with my E, that's a pretty good indicator that Jax will do well in that game.
Okay, cool. All right, so good tips to know if you're thinking about playing Jax during the draft phase. All right, so let's go ahead and go into some runes. What are you usually taking on Jax? I'm assuming it's Conqueror,
in the top lane. Yeah, in the top lane, Conqueror hands down almost every situation. Okay. In the jungle, it gets a little. You can experiment around a little bit. I like press the attack a lot, just because of Conqueror takes a little bit longer to proc when you're in the jungle. Sure. You won't be dueling people as often as you would in the top lane. And Conqueror did get nerfed slightly, so it's not quite the powerhouse that it used to be. So you can experiment with different runes. Hail of Blades is actually not a bad idea as well, because of how Jax's 3-hit passive works. Getting those 3 autos attacks off really quickly is powerful, and because of how Hail of Blades works, your W counts as a auto attack reset, so it doesn't consume one of the Hail of Blades charge. So you'll actually get 4 to 5 autos out really quickly.
That's pretty interesting. I like that.
Yeah, if you're going a more like AD heavy, I hesitate to say assassin-y build. That can be an interesting rune to take on him. But generally speaking, Conquer or press the attack is pretty much the only keystone you want to go. In terms of the other few runes, it's pretty up in the air. Triumph is always good. Alacrity, always a good target. Sure. You might want to take Tenacity sometimes, especially if you are into a more heavy CC comp, but Alacrity, which is the auto attack speed, is always a good time. And then Coup de Grace. Coup de Grace is a nice pickup for any duelist jungler. And then in terms of your secondary runes, in the jungle, I like to take Domination, and I like to go Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter, and that gives Jax a little bit of sustain, especially if you don't happen to build Lifesteal or something like that in his kit, because a lot of the builds these days don't actually build a Bork or a Gunblade anymore.
Yep. Okay. What about the micro runes? You go on
attack speed, adaptive force, and armor almost always. There's
that sounds about right.
Really situation. Maybe MR if you're into an AP heavy comp.
Yeah. Good point. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, sounds pretty straightforward. And let's go ahead and go in now to the itemization of Jax. And I know we talked a little bit about, Triforce and Spear Sojourn, but let's start from the beginning. What are your starting items? Are you going Machete, or what's the deal here?
Yeah, Hunter's Machete. He's an auto attack based jungler, so his only AoE is his E, so the talisman is not really that big of a deal on him, so Hunter's Machete, great item. Upgrading that into either Stalker's Blade or Skirmisher Saber I used to prefer Skirmisher Saber when it was very, very, very strong.
Yeah.
They nerfed it, so it's still decently strong, but it's not quite as strong as it was. Ever since then, I've actually gone back to Stalker's Blade, which is the Blue Smite for people who aren't familiar with the names. So Blue Smite is the slow, Red Smite is the duelist. Yeah. I like Blue Smite because it makes it a little easier to finish off kills. If somebody's like very low, the Blue Smite does true damage right away, so you don't have to worry about auto-attacking them. And it's also a slow, which is nice to have on a jungler that doesn't have a ton of CC in his kit. From then on, you can either go Blood Razor or Cinderhulk, depending on what you need in your comp.
That's interesting.
You'll have to make a decision fairly early in the game whether you want to go a more bruisery or a more duelisty play style.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. Because, I mean, the decision making is going to be a tough thing for anybody that's picking up Jax. As they play, they'll get a better feel for it. But tell us a little bit why you would pick Cinderhulk. Obviously, that's a more tanky one. And then Blood Razor, which is the auto attack speed buff, that lets you really start to auto attack people down. Are you looking like if there's really no tanks on your team, you're going to go Cinderhulk, or if it's a bunch of squishies, you'd rather go Blood Razor? What's your thought process there? Give us a little bit of insight into that.
Well, Jax usually actually builds a decent amount of bruiser items in his kit. You see Sterix Gauge a lot, Guardian Angel a lot, sometimes Titanic Hydra. So picking up the Cinderhulk actually has a little bit of a benefit because you will be getting the bonus HP from that Sterix and from that Titanic. So not a bad item there. The reason I like to go it is that it does help your clear speed a little bit because it is AoE magic damage around you. It gives you a little bit more beef in the jungle, which is always nice. It is going to give you a lot more survivability late game versus teams that have something like an Ari or a Lissandra, something that can lock you down for a short period of time. If you can survive that little bit of burst, you probably won't miss the extra damage that something like a Blood Razor would give you.
Okay.
It's a lot safer. If you aren't super confident on Jax, I would go Cinderhulk. It's just a safe item.
Yeah, that's good to know. Again, like I said, if people are new, go the safer route, and then as you begin to explore kind of the, how far you can take the champ, then you can make better decisions. But it's good to know your options, because definitely Blood Razor seems like it'd be a good item as well. All right, go ahead. Let's keep going with the build. So either Blood Razor or Cinderhulk. Now what? Boots. Let's talk about boots.
Merc treads almost all the time. Merc treads are fantastic.
Okay.
They're the best item in the game. Tenacity.
Tenacity. Yep.
On a diver. And then magic resist, since he doesn't actually build a ton of magic resist in his kit, it is nice to have that bonus 25 magic resist, especially if you're against something that does a lot of magic damage in the jungle, like an Elise or even a Malzahar. We've been seeing a little bit of Malzahar jungle coming back.
Yeah. Yep. It's true. Or Evelyn. That's what I've been playing.
Or Evelyn, yeah. Evelyn's scary for Jax.
All right. So after that, is it Triforce? I wanted to guess. Yeah. Is it Triforce? Okay. What components? What components of Triforce are you building? Is it the Stinger?
Can you guess?
I think it's Stinger because so here's my reasoning: is I play Zen quite a bit, and when I go Triforce, I usually build Stinger first because of the auto attack speed, but. Is that the case?
Ironically, it's actually Stinger last. Stinger is a great item.
Okay.
It's good, but especially if you do have the Blood Razor, the bonus attack speed just isn't that important. With an auto attack reset in your kit, attack speed is nice. You do have already bonus attack speed from your passive, so it's not as pivotal to Jax as something like Sheen is. And Sheen is just such a good item.
Yeah.
It procs on every W. It gives you an extra 100 and something damage.
That's true.
On every W. Just fantastic. Gives you a ton of burst. If you've ever seen a Jax jump on your 80 carry and 2 hit them, it's because of Sheen.
Gotcha.
And then after that, you can either go Phage or Stinger. I like to go Phage because Phage is a nice item. Gives you a little bit of move speed when you're dueling.
Yep.
Helps you stick to targets. Gives you a little bit of HP too. All around good item.
Makes sense. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And yeah, so most often than not, it's Sheen, Phage, Stinger, and then finish the Triforce. Okay, cool.
There's even some situations where you buy the Sheen early, and then you just hold on to that Sheen and build other items until later.
Okay, so is there a time that you wouldn't build Triforce? Maybe if you're really far behind, or is Triforce really what you is that like core? You're trying to get Triforce.
I can't really think of a situation where I wouldn't want a Triforce.
Okay.
Maybe if I'm building against a team comp that I really want the attack speed from Devourer and then go into like a Rage Blade or something like that. But it's I wouldn't say that there's ever a situation where I wouldn't want to build Triforce on Jax.
All right, good to know. Now, after your jungle item and Triforce, is the rest situational, or is there any more core items? Like I know you mentioned Spear of Sojin. Do you want to build that every time, or what are you usually looking to do next here?
Spear of Sojin is what I like to call a win more item. It's very powerful. Like we said earlier, we stated the virtues of how strong Spear of Sojin is and why it makes your duels fantastic. It makes your E almost permanently up. It's a really good item. That being said, I don't think that it's nearly as core as Triforce. I think there's situations where you probably don't need it, and you can just go straight into a tankier item like a Sterix Gauge or a Maul of Mortius or something like that. So don't be afraid not to build Spear. It's a really good item, don't get me wrong, but don't get locked into it because it provides no tank stats, so you'll be squishy.
Yeah.
It actually gives 250 health. But not
so there you go.
I'm
not a ton of tank stats, but something.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it, Sterix or Maw. If you're trying to be a little bit, more defensive there, I'm assuming you'd pick the one that would best suit the enemies that you're going against. If they have more AP, then you look to get Maw. If they're more AD or balanced than Sterix, is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Maul of Mortius is a fantastic item on Jax. It gives you that magic damage shield, which is excellent against AP carries. It actually gives something that maybe people don't realize. When the shield procs, you actually get a small amount of lifesteal and spell vamp too, until the shield goes away.
Oh, okay.
So it can give you a little bit of sustain. I prefer Sterix in most situations, unless it's very AP heavy. Sterix is just so good. It's a good item. Okay. For those who aren't familiar, Sterix is the red glove item that gives you a huge shield when you get low.
Yeah, when you think you're about to kill him, and then he gets big, you're like, I got it! Yeah, that's Sterix. Go ahead.
It also gives them a 30% tenacity boost for 8 seconds, so CC won't be quite as effective against you. Yeah, especially if you have the Merc Treads as well. So all around great item, essential in any diver.
Okay. So real quickly, would you ever build Wit's End over Maw? Because just thinking Wit's End on hit, Jax auto attacks, what are your thoughts on that?
I love Wit's End. Wit's End is one of my favorite items in the game. It's just very hard to find the spot to put it. Okay. I don't think it outperforms Maul in terms of being a AP blocker, just because of the shield from Maul is so powerful, and the bonus healing from Maul is sort of equivalent to the bonus healing you get from Wit's End. Don't get me wrong, I love Wit's End. Wit's End is the item that I go when I'm so ahead that it doesn't really matter what I build, and then it allows you to solo the Baron at 20 minutes. So
for sure.
I wouldn't. I hate to not recommend it, but I wouldn't recommend building it in most situations.
All right. Well, hey, at least
it's a very fun item, though.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I asked, because it seems like a ton of fun. Okay, so after Sterix or Maw or whatever, what are you building next here? Wait, let me guess. GA?
Go ahead.
Is it GA?
Yep, GA.
Yes, okay.
In almost every situation, GA is the right call. It's one of those items where it's just like, hey, I got 1 slot left. I'm dying a lot. What do I want to build? GA. GA. Gives you AD, which is nice. Gives you armor, which is nice. And it gives you that lovely health revive, which is pretty much essential if you're going to be diving in and trying to kill the squishies. It can give your team just enough time to secure the area around your dead body so you can come back and not just die instantly to some form of CC. It's a great item. There's some situations where I would say maybe a Titanic Hydra, or maybe, like you said, a Wit's End, or even maybe a Rage Blade would be a little better. But GA is the safe bet in almost every situation. It's a great item, and
I like that.
It's so fun to play Jax because he is a champion that there are so many good items that you can build on him, and there's almost no reason why he can't build those items. Like like you said, Wit's End is fantastic. Sure. Rage Blade is a lot of fun on him. Not so much since the nerf, but hey, it's still fun. Gunblade, great item on him. It used to be core on him until Spear of Sojin came around.
Gotcha.
And then even Death Stance, not bad. There's so many
it's
good
crazy.
items
Yeah, now that you're talking about that, it really is nice when you have so many options. Like, I think you've given us a good framework of where to go, but it really does seem like, as you were mentioning the items, I'm like, yeah, that I guess that would be pretty good on him. And so that's pretty cool, especially if, you're looking for a champ. You're very versatile in the build routes that you can go. And I think we've got a good framework here. Touch briefly on the top lane. I mean, I know some of the items are going to be similar. Summoners, I'm assuming for jungle would be Flash Smite, obviously, but for top, would it be Flash Teleport, or do you ever take
teleport is pretty much all you want to take in the top lane.
Okay.
If you really feel like you can cheese your enemy top laner, you can go Ignite and kill him early and maybe shut him down. But teleport's just going to be so much more useful in the late game. You'll be teleporting to objectives, you'll be teleporting to lane to split push. You'll be doing a lot of stuff like that. In terms of build, pretty similar items. Obviously, you won't go to the jungle item. You can replace that with Hydra, Titanic Hydra.
Okay.
It's a great item to build on him. So, other than that, pretty standard.
Would you go? Would you start like with corrupting pots?
So in the top lane, real quick, in terms of runes, you do want to pick up secondary magical footwear and time work tonic. And then you will pick up that. Yeah, you will pick up that corrupting potion. Good call, by the way. That's That's something that a lot of people like to build the Doran's Blade because it's an auto attack.
Because it's a Doran's Blade, yeah.
Yeah. But Corrupting Potion is a great champion on him, gives him that early sustain, makes his early tools a little stronger, and then it is a value item, so you'll constantly be filling it up and using it and filling up and using it. Always nice to have.
Okay, so after corrupting, are you looking to get what do you call it? The I'm blanking now. The component for Titanic.
Blue sword?
No,
Tiamat. So this is where things sort of get a little wonky. Some people like Tiamat for wave clear, and some people like Sheen. I think if you're in a situation where you don't want to push the wave into tower, like if you're against somebody who is very comfortable farming under tower, you want to go Sheen. If you're in a situation where you just want to shove that lane in, you're not afraid of a gank, you're not afraid of the guy just farming under tower all day, then you go to Tiamat and you roam down after you shove the wave in,
Gotcha.
take an objective and do something like that.
Okay.
That's sort of where you have the versatility there.
And then after that, then you're looking for the Triforce and then the regular stuff that we talked about, Triforce and Sterics for Ma. Okay, good. Yep. Just wanted to talk about the little differences there in the beginning, top lane. And remember, top lane, you're more than likely going to go Conquer. Is that correct? If you're going top lane.
Conquer almost all the time.
And don't forget the secondary rune switch there. You want you said Boots and Time Warp?
Yeah. Magical Footwear and Time Work Tonic. It's almost what every single champion takes in the game, so might as well.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, cool. All right, so we got a good idea now on builds. Let's talk about specifically jungling. What's your ideal pathing here, and your skill order start, and then after your skill order start, you can talk about what skills you would max, as far as like throughout the game.
So Jax benefited pretty hard from the jungle crab change that we saw 2 or 3 patches ago. He is strongest at level 3, so he's happy to duel at level 3 instead of level 2. In terms of what you start, I think you start Counter-Strike almost all the time.
Okay.
It helps you clear that first camp a little healthier. You won't go down as low, and it's just a good ability to start. After that, you want to pick up your W. Go to Gromp, usually, if you're on blue side, or Wolves if you're on red side. Actually, if you're on red side, you basically skip out on Raptors and Krugs early because they're both such a pain to take on him. Okay. After that, you want to go to your buff, so either red or blue depending on what side you started. Finish that off. You won't be level 3 yet until you go and get Gromp / if you're on blue side, I guess it would be Krugs or Raptors depending on what you want to do. So then you'll be level 3, and then you'll be ready to go to the Scuttle Crab, and you'll want to take that Scuttle Crab right away. It should be up that then, and you'll be the strongest duelist in the game early, so don't be afraid of the enemy jungler if he shows up.
Wow. Strongest duelist, huh? So even more so than Lee Sin or Xin Zhao?
Absolutely.
Okay,
you'll
good to know.
destroy Lee Sin and Xin Zhao.
All right, great. Good to know.
early game, 99% of every jungler's power comes from auto attacks, and being able to dodge those auto attacks for 2 seconds and get the stun off is very powerful.
Gotcha.
Try to save your E if you're taking the crab. You don't need to use your E on the crab. Leave it up. If you do get countered, then you use it and use it to jump on them.
Good to know. Yes, I like it. Okay. All right. So after you take Scuttle, how is Jax as far as like counter jungling? Is he good? Should he just look to gank and maybe farm his jungle until a certain point, or what's your next thought process here after the first the first Scuttle?
He's a fairly decent counter jungler. You have to be careful of collapsing laners. So Jax doesn't have the fastest time to kill early game before you get some items. So you will win duels, but you won't win 2v1s. So you have to be very careful of invading in case the enemy mid laner decides that now is the time to help their jungler and comes and claps on you. That's where the ward hopping comes in handy. It does allow you to get over walls pretty early and get out of situations that you might have otherwise not been able to survive in. So I don't know if counter jungling is really his thing early game.
Okay.
Once you get a couple items and level 6, then you can pretty much do whatever you want.
Okay. Talk about like what's the typical combo then when you're looking for a gank? You alluded to this earlier, but let's say you do see a good opportunity for a gank. Can you explain what buttons you're pressing as you're trying to get into this gank?
So it depends a lot on if your laner has CC or if they don't. If they have some sort of stand up, you can actually hold onto your E a lot longer. Holding onto your E will freak the enemy out. The top laner / mid laner will freak out. They won't understand why you're not Eing. They'll flash early, and they'll be very flustered. So you'll jump on them, and then you'll E them after they flash, and they'll be very upset that you didn't E them earlier. But if your laner doesn't have CC, which is a lot more common these days, unfortunately, you'll generally just want to get in range to Q them, activate E, wait about half a second, jump on them with your Q, and then E as soon as you land. Gives them no time to flash. They won't be able to really get out with a gap closer. So you want to make sure you time that QE combo as close as possible.
Yep. Okay. And I'm assuming with W being an auto attack reset, you want to try to auto and then W as opposed to just pressing W and then auto. So a lot of times, so for listeners out there who aren't really familiar with auto attack resets, one of the benefits of it is that when you auto attack, you can press this ability and it'll reset your auto so you can do the ability right away. So with Jax, you want to try to get that auto and then press W because it'll get that second auto really quickly. Now, again, if you can secure the kill right away, then go ahead and do that. But most of the time, I think that's what you're trying to do. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's very powerful in Jax as well because, especially with the press the attack, you'll jump on them, land the stun, and you'll have time to auto W, which will be an auto attack reset, and then auto again, which will automatically proc that press the attack, which gives you the bonus damage as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And it'll burst them down, almost always kill them unless your laner isn't able to help.
Awesome. Okay, let's talk quickly about objective control. So is Jax a good solo like objective control? One thing, it's like I've been playing Nunu quite a bit, and one thing I love about him is look, if my team doesn't want to group with me to objectives, that's all right. I could just do it myself, you know. How is Jax with that? Does he need a team, or when is it possible for him to start soloing like Drag or Rift Herald safely? Talk about that.
So uninterrupted, he can actually take the dragon at level 4 with blue smite item, any smite item. As long as you have your smite up, any dragon, doesn't matter what it is. If you get caught, you will die until you get level 6. Once you get level 6 and your first item, then it gets a lot safer. You're able to jump over the wall and get out if things get hairy. But he's definitely not quite on the level of somebody like Nunu, like you said, or something like that. He's not quite there, but he is a very good solo objective taker. Okay. All
right. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, just because, again, different junglers do different things, right? And, knowing where they're at kind of amongst other junglers with that point, with objective control, it's good to know at least when is safer to do or at least attempt. One of the things I also wanted to talk about is, with Lee Sin, I know many people like to always stock them on at least 1 or 2 pink wards for them to be able to W out. Is this the same kind of thing you want to do with Jax? And as far as trinkets goes, are you looking to hold on to your yellow trinket always, or is there a time when you want to actually switch over to sweeper?
Yeah, so I always like to keep. I don't like to keep a pink ward in my inventory because pink wards are expensive. So I only like to have like 1 out at a time. I'll put 1 in either bottom pixel bush under the mid lane or top pixel bush under or above the mid lane. Gotcha. So that's kind of like where my pink wards stay. But I do, like you alluded to, I do hang on to my warding totem pretty much all game. Okay. Sweeper is obviously a very powerful tool, but it's so painful to give up the free ward jump.
Ward jump. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. If your team absolutely refuses to pick up a sweeper for some reason, go ahead and pick one up just because it's very useful.
You need it.
But
yeah. Okay.
If not, please hold on to your wording totem. It's so powerful. It gives your team vision, which is
for
very
sure.
good.
Definitely. All right, let's talk about mid game now. Let's say a turret or 2 is down. Obviously, we want to. The correct thing would be to try to play for objectives here at this point. But going from mid to, I guess, late-ish game, are you better as a grouper team fighter or split pusher, or what's your thought process here now, like as we're moving into more of mid and late game?
So in the very mid game, like after you get a couple items and you're level 8 or so, that's where I actually think Jax is pretty not maybe his peak power level, but that is where he's very strong. Okay. He has a lot of team fight potential because of it. He's very good at jumping on the AD carry and knocking them out of the fight early, or whoever the carry ends up being. That is the situation where you do want to group and you want to stay with your team. That being said, the longer the game goes on, the less likely you'll be able to do anything useful in a team fight. The longer the game goes on, the enemy tanks will be a lot stronger. They'll be able to keep you off the carries. The enemy mid laner will be a lot more powerful. She'll be able to keep you bursted if you end up going in. And that's sort of the situation where you kind of go away from staying with your team to more of going for, I'm going to be annoying on the map somewhere where you're not. So we're going to be taking as many objectives as possible. We're going to be split pushing. We're going to be going and attacking whoever's solo pushing alone. We'll be power farming up the enemy jungler, denying him as much gold as possible. Okay. But you want to try to not abstain from grouping, but just be very wary. You do not want to go in as primary engage as Jax late game. You will die very quickly and you won't do anything. Go in as secondary engage if you can. Jump on the squishies, kill the AD carry, kill the mid laner, and have a good time. But do not go in first. You will die very fast.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like every time I see Jax come into a team fight, it's usually cleanup duty, and he just takes everybody out because you've blown all all the cooldowns on the team fight. Now you're left with nothing, and Jax just comes in and starts mopping everybody up. So that definitely makes a lot of sense. Okay. Is there anything else as far as Jax goes that you want to talk about? That we may have missed, any game nuances, any, tips or tricks that you could give us, or any overall advice, for anybody that's like, you know what, this sounds like an interesting champion. I think I'm going to pick them up today. Any advice for them?
Jax is a very all-in champion. You have to commit to a lot of your battles because once you do go in, you have very little tools to get out besides maybe a flash. So don't be afraid to. You'll probably die a lot when you first pick them up, but that's okay. Most of these duelists and bruisers and divers have the same situation. If you're playing Master Yi, you're gonna die. If you're playing Xin Zhao, you're probably gonna die. So just don't be too afraid to just jump in and do some damage. You'll pretty much always be able to kill AD carries, unless it's maybe a Vayne or something that can kite you very well. You're pretty much always be able to kill
likes a Vayne
games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nobody likes Vayne.
Yeah. So real quickly, this is very important too. I can't believe I didn't ask it earlier, but super important. What is your favorite Jax skin? This is important.
Before it came out, Angular Jax or SKT1 Jax were my favorite skins. Angular was a little more rare, so you can kind of show off. And it kind of looks like PAX Jax, but not really. And then SKT obviously has the best auto attack sounds. Womp womp.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Bonk 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 bonk.
There it is.
But you have to have Godstaff Jax. It's just the animations are smoother.
I'm buying it right now.
Nice.
I'm gonna buy it right now.
Buy it right now.
Okay.
Right. Use creator code Nighthawk when you're buying now.
I love it, man.
No, it's a great skin. It's very smooth. It feels very nice. It's one of the better skins that Jax has. So
okay. One last thing that we didn't really talk about, and you can go over as little or as much as you want to, but top lane Jax. We didn't really talk about that much. You know, obviously he's going to be a little bit different because you're laning against somebody. And my only experience or understanding of Jax is that he's weak early. That's my only against most matchups. But what are your thoughts here? Early, let's talk about early, mid, late, like early game. Are there any champs where you can beat early, or is it most of the time you're just trying to farm it up safe, let yourself scale? And when can you start to become more aggressive? That sort of thing.
Pretty much versus most top lane matchups, it's going to revolve a lot around how you use your E. Okay. If you can use your E to get a good trade-off, then maybe you can win the lane. The problem with top Jax right now is that the tank meta is slowly shifting over and becoming a thing again. And Jax just isn't great into tanks, especially early. He doesn't have the damage to take them down. He is very bad against Bramblevest. Bramblevest is such a hard game for Jax. Yeah. And that's the main problem with him into a lot of these more meta top laners. He struggles against things like Riven, really bad against Malphite and Pantheon and Scion. So just keep an eye out for champions like that. Like you said, you just have to be patient. You have to try and farm up. Don't take too many engages that you know you won't win. Okay. Try to trade as little as possible unless you know that you can win those trades, and then just get to level 6 or whenever your power spike is. Pick up the Sheen, pick up the Tiamat, and then start taking the trades. You'll get a lot more powerful if you just wait.
Okay. Good to know. Like I said, you know, I figured it's a little bit different since you're you're against somebody as opposed the jungle. You still are, but it's more of like pathing and kind of big brain plays, you know, where to go. And that's
you can't miss last hits in the jungle.
You haven't seen me play. I'm just kidding. All right. Well, hey, man, I really appreciate you taking some time talking about Jax. I am definitely going to pick this champion up. I've been playing a lot of jungle lately, so I'm really excited to try him, add him to my champ pool. I'm ready to die a lot. But if you have any questions for Nighthawk or for any of the podcasts in general, feel free to email us at theallinpodcastlol@gmail.com, or you can always tweet us at theallinpodcast on Twitter. But until then, guys, try not to get too toxic. Enjoy your climb on the Rift. I'm actually becoming a little bit better about not being as toxic, and you know what? It's helping my mental and it's helping my game out. So I hope that it'll help you out as well. But until next time, guys, we will see you later. Peace.